Coming up, the Dragons get shot in the foot by their own fans. Samisoni Lange pulls off his best Greg Inglis impersonation. And a weak-gutted dog in the Big Cats as the Panthers run over the top of Ricky Stewart. Yes, hello, and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I am Connor Marcellus, and today it is your NRL Week 22 debrief, jumping straight into the action to a blockbuster Thursday night clash between the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm.
Yes, Melbourne Storm team changes are. Cooper Johns is set to still be in the halves with Jerome Hughes suffering a partial dislocation of his shoulder last time out. So Munster is back to 5'8", and Nick Meaney returning from concussion. Justin Ullman is back from the spicy cough, and Tony Mapea goes to the reserves. Tom Eisenhuth is starting in place of Felice Kafusi for family reasons. That's why he's out, and Chris Lewis has been added to the bench.
As for Ivan Cleary's side, he has been forced into a couple of changes. No Taylor May, so Sonia Taruva will start on the flank. Brian To'o shifting to the other side. Viliami Kikau is back in the side, so that has come at the cost of Chris Smith and Robert Jennings, the fresh man on the interchange bench. Well, the context of this game, it could not be more spicier than what it is already, especially in recent times.
Yeah, it's got finals, like yet again another finals preview written all over it, like we saw a couple of games last week.
Especially, I was hinting at the comments the Melbourne chairman Matt Tripp made, accusing the Panthers of a swagger of arrogance.
I did hear about that too. I don't get why though, but
you don't get why. Have you not been watching the games?
Not, to be quite honest, not a lot as of late. Well, as much as I can, I should say.
And even previous examples over the last 2 or so years. Now, I'm not banging on about Penrith because they have been amongst the best, but the way they do carry themselves sometime, and that's what got the Raiders up unsettled. Of course, Canberra went down, I should say. 20, he's 6-6 in the nation's capital, whereas Melbourne bounced back in the form, going off against the Titans, 32-14, but they really had to work for that one.
Yeah, surprisingly, they had to work for that one. I thought Melbourne were absolutely going to blitz the Titans and keep them to nothing, or at least 6 points or 4 points. But no, Gold Coast actually put on for them, a solid performance.
I would say it was a bit scrappy, but of course that's what you'd expect. But this is the sort of environment you sort of have to be cautious of where Melbourne are at the moment, and Jerome Hughes is still a big loss for this game.
Oh yeah, not only Hughes but Pappenhausen as well. And with the reshuffle too, I think Munster going at fullback to start the game, and then Tyron Wishart coming in later on, and Munster slotting back to the halves. It was a bit of a all over the place of Melbourne, but they still got the victory.
Oh yeah, and Munster was the standout for the Melbourne Storm in this affair. 3 tries, 252 running meters, 9 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 4 from 6 goals converted, whereas for the Panthers, Dylan Edwards in a milestone fixture, 191 running meters, 9 tackle breaks, 1 line break, 2 offloads. Where do you honestly see Dylan Edwards in terms of the best fullback in the game?
Well, he's severely underrated, put it that way. I believe he's so
would you say same tier as Gutherson, underrated?
Yeah, I would say so, because you got everyone saying Tavorovich, Mitchell, or Tom Tavorovich, Mitchell, Tedesco, and on par with maybe, I don't know if you'd say Pappenhausen's one of the best. If they say
Pappenhausen, well, I think Pappy and Turbo are both injured most of the time, so it's a bit hard to get a read on. But when they're on, they're probably amongst the best 5 or 6 fullbacks in the game, like S-tier fullbacks. It's up there. Gutherson, I think Edwards and Drinkwater from North Queensland, I would have them A-tier at best, B-tier at worst, to be quite fair.
Yeah.
But I think they can push S-tier.
They can.
Now, context of this game, Melbourne have got a bit of a problem on their hands because they've got the Eels and the Broncos both chasing a top 4 finish. A loss for them could be suicide.
Oh, yes. And when they had that 4-game losing streak, I thought that was it for them, but then they turned the season around. But with a tough run coming up with Penrith this week, and then Brisbane and that as well. That's going to be very, very interesting to see how they perform without some of their key players.
Well, if you already saw up on Facebook, I loaded the tips up ahead of time because, life gets in the way and things don't always work out here at this channel. But I have gone with the Penrith Panthers for this game, and you ended up going with Melbourne.
Yeah, I went with Melbourne. Will be a real test with Penrith to see how they go against a top side without the likes of Luai and Cleary. I thought they were going to struggle against Canberra, but Canberra they're not a top team like this season compared to what Melbourne are. So that's why I went with Melbourne.
I was sort of thinking Melbourne before the Raiders game, but then, and the way O'Sullivan, Coruscant, and Crichton just ran riot. I mean, the tries from dummy half, the well-weighted kicks to the in goal, they just held Canberra to nothing in the second half. And of course, things got heated, a couple of sin bins here and there. Starling got neutered. Ricky, he lost his cool again.
Again, yes.
In the press conference, but Melbourne have been sketchy within the last little while. I mean, they got that win against the Titans, but they're gunning for the wooden spoon at this point in time. Penrith, and at home, they have only lost once at home this year. And I just feel like I cannot see any logical way Melbourne get a win here. I feel like this is setting up as another Penrith win, 1-6. I think this is a 1-6 margin we're talking here, but just kick out coming back is a big boot. No Fisher Harris, well, that's on him, but I feel like home ground advantage, and I feel like the Panthers could eat up anything Melbourne could throw at them.
That could happen as well, but as I said, this is a real test for them without their two big key players there. Just back to me margin, I'm going to say Melbourne to win this one probably by 10 points.
So you call them 7-12?
7-12.
All right. I've been a confident call on your part. I feel like the home side will just sneak home, even without Luai and Cleary. Now, moving on, we've got the New Zealand Warriors up against the Canterbury Bulldogs at Mount Start Stadium for the first of the two Friday night games. Of course, one change for the Dogs. Tavita Pangai Jr. is out as he's expecting his first child, so of course he wouldn't play. So Faitala Marino stays at lock forward, and Harry Edwards is once again included on the bench.
As for the home side, another change at 5'8" with Dijon Arcee back alongside Wade. Back in his halves, and Wade Egan moving from 5'8" to hooker, with Freddie Lussick going to the bench, and Tanila
Otukolo.
Thank you. Drops to the reserves. Viliami Valia is back in the centres, so that means Ewan Aiken goes back into the forwards in place of Bailey Sirenen with Josh Curran, the new lock forward player with Aaron Penne out injured.
Well, the Warriors... What can you say about the Warriors that has not already been said? Another horror showing for them at the Sunshine Coast Stadium, going down to the Rabbitohs, 48 points to 10, whereas the Bulldogs, with a lot of spirit, but just couldn't hang on as the Cowboys ran home 28 points to 14. Let's just start with the home side on that. What are they doing?
I honestly don't know.
I think that's the honest answer.
No one knows.
Their defense was just woeful. It was absolutely woeful. And you thought when they got that lucky sniff here and there that you thought maybe, and then it was just like, no.
Well, what were they? 36-6 down at half-time?
I think that was the case. Just
there was no way the Warriors had a chance of beating South Sydney in this match, regardless of where it was held.
You would think that they would swing the axe on some of the senior players that aren't exactly standing up.
Sean Johnson, one of those ones.
I mean,
that's just the first key player coming.
The Warriors are going to have a dramatic halves reshuffling. Already, Ash Taylor's retired, medically, unfortunately. Chanel Harris-Tavita is stepping away from the game. You brought Ronald Volkman in because you thought he might be a big boom prospect. You got Tamare Martin coming to the club, who's on a good success story himself. And you're not developing any more halves that could take over because there's still rumours going around. Sean Johnson could pull up stumps at the end of this year and try and offload whatever little cap space he's occupying.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does, though. Like, he's gone back to the Warriors, and to be honest, they also went back there to try and do what he did like 10 years ago or 11 years ago, but that just hasn't happened.
You have to wonder if Warriors actually do have buyer's remorse of bringing Sean Johnson back.
I don't know. Everyone thought it was going to be a good thing for the Warriors, but
Well, I started the Warriors finishing outside the 8.
yeah.
But
Yeah, they were just absolutely woeful against South Sydney, and South Sydney absolutely put them to shreds.
now, as for the Dogs, wow, that start, that could have gone anywhere. Just saying that the captain's challenge within the first 10 seconds. How bloody smart was that of Braden Burns to get that challenge up?
Very smart indeed. Like, when I saw that, I thought, oh, this is a bit risky very, very early on in the match. Like, you had to play 79 minutes and 50 seconds without a captain's challenge. But no, it was successful.
It worked for them, but the back 20 didn't. And that's the impact that the Cowboys bench forwards really got to it. I mean, you could see it. They jumped out to a 10-0 lead. Then Cotter comes on. Then Neem comes on. And my standout player for the Cowboys in this game, Luciano Leilua, one try assist, 144 run meters, 4 tackle breaks, and an offload. The moment the Cowboys bench comes on to replace the starting forwards, that's when the momentum swung in their favour.
It certainly did. And I think also the Cowboys were wearing down the defence of the Bulldogs as well. Just to class that, the difference between those two sides. But the Bulldogs, they put up an absolutely brilliant performance against the top
I was
side.
expecting we were going to get smashed from the word go.
Well,
And the fact that Burton and Addo Carr just owned the first half for Canterbury.
Yeah. Them two are clicking very well.
I don't think I've ever seen a better half-winger combination. I mean, Thurston, Cooper, that's probably as close as you can get.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't name any off the top of my head at the moment. A combination like that where they just get so involved.
Yeah. Well, even the other week when it was winner kick, like seriously.
Oh, Addo Carr
But-
to Carraz.
Yeah. But Burton and Adakar formed a very, very good combination this year. And what happens if Mick Potter doesn't stay as head coach? Is that going to continue? We just don't know. Is Burton going to stay on at the Dogs? We don't know either.
Well, that still leads to speculation because there have been reports circulating that Cameron Ciraldo is going to be the next head coach, but there are also other reports suggesting Michael Maguire has been meeting with Gus Gould. Now, depending who you listen to, whether you listen to News Corp or you listen to Nine, it's either going to be Ciraldo or Maguire that's going to be taking over. But bottom line is Mick Potter's going to get shafted because this is only an interim in basis.
Yeah, I know that, but he has turned that team around pretty much from his first game as interim coach.
Oh, we've been getting better.
They've been winning pretty consistently.
We've won more than 3 times the games he'd won than we did under Trent Barrett. That's the bottom line.
And the Bulldogs' attack is so much better than what it was at the start of the year.
Getting back onto the context of this game, I think Canterbury need to be more physical in the middle of the field. They need to be able to handle the challenge because you're looking at that bench. This is the Canterbury bench you're working with. Docker Clay, Simpson, Edwards, Patolo. That's not exactly... I mean, there's some youthful experience in and amongst that, but there's not enough go forward. Of course, Luke Thompson, he has travelled with the side to Auckland, but concussion management is still a little bit slow on that front. But missing Pangai Jr. will be a big loss for them, but the rate the Warriors' defence folds in half like a paper mache or a fine for Ricky Stewart. That's the reason why I went with the Dogs. I think even though they don't have sort of like hard-nosed impact bench forwards coming up, up to stand up when King, Bourne, maybe Faitala Mariner go off. There's still enough for them to get up over the Warriors, and that's why I've gone with the Bulldogs to get up 7 points to 12.
Yeah, look, I have to go to Bulldogs. The rate they've been attacking is way, way, way better than what the Warriors have been. So I'm going to say the Bulldogs will win this one by 18 points.
Yeah, take it or leave it. That's what we see it. Now, another consequential game. This for your Macca's Friday Night Football, or VB, whatever Channel 9 run with these days. The Parramatta Eels against the South Sydney Rabbitohs at CommBank Stadium. No real changes for the Rabbitohs, up from Daniel Saluka Fafita being pushed back to the interchange, with Hame Sele returning from a hamstring injury, and of course, still no Tom Burgess or Campbell Graham for Jason Demetriou's side.
As for the home side, only the one change that beat Manly, with Offahicky Ogden set to play. He joins the bench at the expense of Makahisi Makatoa, with Bailey Simonson amongst the reserves as still.
Of course, we know how well the Rabbitohs performed, 48-10 over the Warriors. This is a real stunner for me. The Eels actually got up at Brookvale over Manly, 36 points to 20.
But what a game it was, though. Holy smokes.
But that start, Micah Sevo, he ain't fucking around. He's making up a lost time right here.
Oh, yeah. What about his second try? Like, last tackle right along the side.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But no, I
the blindside raids that Parramatta put on early.
But there was periods of the game where I thought, Manly's going to go win. Then Parramatta looked like they were going to go.
The scores were locked at 14-all at the break.
Yeah.
This was a coin flip. It was just like that. A coin flip. But I tell you what, if Cam Murray was an influence for the Rabbitohs with his 187 run meters, 3 tackle breaks, 3 try assists, 4 tackle breaks, 1 line break, 3 offloads, but it was Gutherson for the Eels with no Mitch Moses. Keeping this in mind, no Mitchell Moses, 1 try, 3 try assists, 207 run meters, 2 line breaks, and half okay with the boot, 4 from 7 goals converted.
Yes.
But this game, if the Panthers storm is crucial for the top 4, this is crucial for the top 8. We've just had some breaking news come through, courtesy of Fox League. Unfortunately, Paul Green seemingly passed away. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, all I've got here that he's passed away at age 49.
This is just a developing story that we're breaking right here, right now. Recording lunchtime on a Thursday afternoon. It was just like...
That out of the blue, nowhere. And we know what he's like. He took the Cowboys to their first grand final. And he
is consequential for the history of North Queensland because he comes in after Neil Henry. He moves on after the Cowboys' 2013 campaign, I think it was. I think he came in 2014, didn't he?
I believe so.
He got the Cowboys to the semi-finals, of course, controversial overruling with the Robert Louis try. He takes North Queensland to 2 grand finals and a World Club Challenge victory, downing the Broncos 17-16, and Downing leads 38-4 in the World Club Challenge the following year, and he got the Cowboys to the grand final again, but of course lost to the Melbourne Storm, and of course took Queensland for the 2021 series, where of course did not fare well going down to the Blues 2-1, but that's just a shock.
Yeah, massive shock. Like, I'm going to say it right now, Cowboys black armbands this weekend, hands down, no arguments.
They will, because he and Jonathan Thurston played the biggest role, breaking a 20-year drought, essentially.
Yeah.
That's just come as a complete shock. I expect we'll hear more about this on the news in 6 hours' time. We will hear more about this.
Yeah.
But
or as we're doing this, I'll try and multitask.
Yes. So that's that breaking news of this pre-recorded session. Paul Green has passed away at the age of 42. 49. That's sad. But I suppose Vale, Paul Green. It's sort of a sad day if you're a North Queensland fan.
Yeah, very much so indeed. Or in rugby league in general.
Yeah. Eels Rabbitohs. That just sucked the energy out of you, didn't it?
It did, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Look, the Rabbitohs went up against paper thin Warriors defense. There's no hiding the fact that South Sydney was only as good as attacking display was due to the fact that the Warriors couldn't defend for shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the ultimate truth of the matter. Parramatta, they were resilient enough to resist Manly's advances. And then they laid on 3 more tries after leveling the scores up again to take the game on beyond reasonable doubt. This is the side that, on their day, beat Penrith and Melbourne, and one of those in Golden Point.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the Eels everyone wants to see. This consistent, resilient Eels side that doesn't fold up in the semi-finals for a 4th year in a row. But an Eels side that can realistically challenge the best of the best come September.
They certainly can.
And Jake Arthur, he ultimately silenced a load of the critics in that win as well. Because remember, a couple of weeks ago, he was getting booed by his own fans.
Which is absolutely pathetic.
I wonder what the reaction's going to be tomorrow night when he runs out of Combank wearing Moses number 7. Are they still going to boo him? Are they actually going to cheer him because they're able to beat Manly twice for the first time in 7 years?
Well, we have to wait and see what the reception is, I guess. Really.
So, I think South's going to be expecting a much more resilient Eels defensive side to rock up. So, they know they're not going to get as many try-scoring opportunities as they did it against the Warriors. And I think the Eels have got to understand they can't allow the Rabbitohs to get at the ascendancy early. They've got to be ready to meet them physically in the middle. Gutherson and Arthur have got to be ready to put Latrell Mitchell under pressure. Make him work like the Sharks made him work. Because I think Mitchell's good in bursts, I think, as we've seen. Even though he's supposed to be fully recovered from the hamstring injury, he got moved into the centres at a crucial point in the game and that allowed the Sharks to gain the ascendancy. So if they make Mitchell work harder than what he usually has done, they could be in with a chance.
They could be. It's going to be a very, very interesting game indeed, this one.
So, work Mitchell over, contain Cook and Murray, because that combination is as golden as ever. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the rookie halfbacks, Arthur versus Ilias. I feel like Arthur's got the ascendancy here at the moment.
Yeah, Ilias just hasn't been up to scratch. It's like, well, that everyone thought he was going to be this year, but it was always going to be hard taking over from Adam Reynolds.
My big call, Micah Sevo runs over the top of Isaac Thompson to score, or at some point. That's my big tip.
Fair enough.
I'm actually liking the Eels in this game. 1-6, but I'm liking them in this game.
I'm going to say the opposite side. I'm going to say South Sydney by 2 points. Another finals clash potential.
This is going to be a golden matchup between the two sides right here. No doubt about it.
Very much so.
Now, the first Saturday game in the triple header sees the Sydney Roosters up against the North Queensland Cowboys. We were just discussing with that breaking news right there.
Just a bit more from what I've just read. Is apparently he had no reports of illnesses or anything, but a post-mortem is going to be carried out to determine the cause of his passing. Yeah. So we'll keep you up to date here on the Sideline Chat.
As for the Cowboys lineup?
Oh, yeah, sorry, back to that. Jordan McLean is back on the bench, and Kyle Felt is still on the sideline with his hamstring issue. Ruben Cotter is into the starting side with Jermaine Tiller-Brown comes back to the bench, and that is pretty much it for the Cowboys.
As for Trent Robinson, only one change on the bench. Egan Butcher back in the side, replacing Ben Thomas, and Sam Verrills has to pass a concussion test before being allowed to take his place in the side. Of course, the Cowboys got up over the Dogs 28 points to 14. The Roosters, meanwhile, knocked off their South Queensland and rivals in the Brisbane Broncos 34 to 16.
Yeah, in a way, that was a bit of a surprise result. Like, I thought the Broncos would have wanted to bounce back big time after losing to the team that second last on the ladder the week prior, but no, the better team on the night was the Roosters by a fair bit too.
Discipline is what costs the Broncos. It's simple as that. It seemed like within the first 18 minutes, every time they gave away the penalty, the Roosters capitalised on it. And to be fair, the Roosters did.
Yeah, well, that's what the Roosters always do. They capitalise on your errors and poor discipline.
And I think the defense was just soft for the Broncos as well. They simply could not handle what the Roosters were throwing at them. And there's been a lot of talk. Are the Roosters going on a September run?
Yes. They always do it every single time of this time of year. They go up there, then they slide back down the ladder and everything. Everyone thinks, oh, they're going to make the top 8, and then they make a run for it. They do it every year.
And we got to remember, the Roosters have had a rotten luck over the last 2 years in particular with serious injury.
Yeah, they had a horrible...
It's just like...
It's not funny.
Everyone was so mad at the Roosters, like between that period, 2018 to 19 or so, because they were just the best team in the league. They rarely suffered any serious injuries. But in the last 2 years, this year and the last, they've just been slapped with ACL after ACL and suspensions that run players like Victor Radley out long term.
Yeah.
They can't catch a break.
No.
At this point in time.
No, they certainly can't. But they still somehow get through it all, which is the really good thing about the Roosters, show how professional they are.
Look,
and how much...
Keary and Walker had the ball on a string. And they made Brisbane's defence pay. I mean, you had Momorowski going over. Matt Butcher got his third try at the cricket ground and against Brisbane.
And in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
He scored...
I was thinking back to the double he scored against Manly back in round 2, but a different opponent.
Well, yeah, no, but even against the Broncos, he scored one. I think the one before that, he scored a try before, 2 in the week before last week. So
it was absolutely mental. But I think his other edge partner, Angus Crichton, I think he was the standout for the Roosters on this occasion. 1 try, 158 running meters, 9 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and a line break to his credit.
Solid effort there. Yeah, he did it. From what I recall, they didn't really mention his name a lot, but he's one of those players that were chipping away at it. But he was there, and he always is. Turns up that he's a solid player.
Even in defeat, Corey Oates had another good game. I will say that.
Of course.
Corey Oates, 70% pay cut. I think he should be wanting to stay at the Broncos because he knows they're building something here.
Oh, bloody
After
hell
a couple of lean years between Seabold in the first year under Kevin Walters, he has turned it around. Now, true, he didn't have much to do with the Origin decider, but the fact that he earned his recall for the year he's had, where he's once again probably amongst the premier wingers, maybe not what he was before, but still one of the best wingers going round.
I have to say that too, and with the help, that has really helped since Adam Reynolds has come in. Adam Reynolds just coming in the Broncos side in general has made them a lot better than what they were a couple of years ago. And that's helped Corey Oates get back up to where he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, he's amongst the top 5 try scorers. The company, including Taylor May, Jeremiah Nanai, the Fox.
Yeah.
It's an illustrious company.
And most of them are pretty much backline players except for Nanai. Which is no surprise. He's been scoring tries.
I look at this game and I know I've heard earlier in the week that the Roosters have a good record. Well, not so much the Roosters, but the Cowboys have a poor record in Sydney. That they don't win, usually, depending on the opposition, they don't fare well in Sydney.
Well, just ask the Dragons that a couple of weeks ago.
But I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, it doesn't matter if they've historically fared poorer in Sydney than they have in Queensland. This Cowboys side is the second best side in the league at the moment. They've got a forward pack that doesn't require Taumalolo battering the door down for 300 plus meters every day because he's now got... They talked about, I mentioned it before, Cotter, Neem, Leilua off the bench. There's a drive that got the Cowboys home. And you see it lays that platform. Townsend, Dearden, Drinkwater, Holmes. It unleashes the Cowboys in a way that it's just sort of an attractive brand of Queensland football to watch.
Yeah, very much so. And it's good to see. They're back up there after...
And I don't think the Roosters can handle that. And now with the passing of their first premiership coach, this just now gives them extra incentive. This is going to be an ambush the Roosters didn't want to face.
No.
Simple as that. I thought the result was already locked in before all teams into this breaking news, as we just said, had came out. But I have no doubt in my mind that the Cowboys manhandled the Roosters 13 plus here. I just think the moment the Roosters take Radley and Maria Hargraves off, it'll be go time for North Queensland.
No doubt about that. Look, I've got to say the Cowboys to this one, and like we just said about the passing of Paul Green, they will really want him to get him over the top of the Roosters even harder.
They're going to be ready for this.
I'm going to say Cowboys to win this one by 14 points.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this now on... obviously, they're going to wear black armors, but the next home game, they'll probably do a tribute din up at Queensland Country.
No doubt they will.
Time.
No doubt they will. Now, from the centre...
Just quickly, how ironic, Paul Green used to play for the Roosters as well.
He also played for Cronulla as well, back in the 90s.
The Sharks, North Queensland, Roosters, Parramatta, and the Broncos. So the Roosters might even wear some black armbands themselves.
I have no doubt that they will. As well as we run up some of his accolades
I was unaware he played for Roosters, so yeah.
Now, meantime, from the centre of Sydney to the bush, we go up to Scully Park, Tamworth, for the West Tigers up against the Cronulla Sharks. A couple of changes Craig Fitzgibbon has had no choice but to make. Connor Tracy has been ruled out after Tarek clobbered him into 2023. So Lockie Miller will take his place on the right wing. Matt Moylan is not yet returned from his quad injury, so Braden Trindle retains the 5'8" position, with Dale Finucane back in the side at lock, with Cam McInnes reverting to the bench and Royce Hunt pushed to the reserves.
Dale Finucane coming back from his suspension that shouldn't have been given.
That ruling was farcical, and it's now set a precedent that even if you accidentally make contact with the head with your own melon, you can be rubbed up to a month. That's horseshit.
No, that was absolutely ridiculous.
That was accidental
there wasn't
contact,
a penalty.
if anything.
There wasn't a penalty. There was no penalty given, and there was no on report.
Yeah, and as much as you like bagging Ash Klein out, because he's the Dragons' favourite referee, you got to agree with that call that is just play on.
Yeah, it was play on. Everyone saw it.
It was a farcical ruling.
Yeah. Back to the home side. Well, the home away from home side. That makes sense.
Home away from your other home, away from that other home you had a couple of weeks prior, including that one that's now starting to fall apart.
I was waiting for you to say that one. Referring to Leichhardt Oval, let's just say. Just quickly on that Leichhardt Oval thing, I said to Dad, I said, not only are the Tigers falling apart, the stadium's now falling apart. So,
what a metaphor.
Or just like the club, the stadium's falling apart or whatever like that. But anyway, Cameron Marlowe is out with a PCL injury, so Star Tyler shifts to the wing with James Roberts coming back as centre. Zane Musgrove is back in the starting front row with Opper Hengawi going from prop to lock, and Fanua Pole reverts to the interchange with Luke Garner named as 18th man.
I was listening to a little bit of the League and the Freak podcast because I listened to them on and off, as well as being part of the tipping competition. They pointed this out to me. James Roberts will be marking up against Siosifa Talakai defensively.
Oh, well, what a statement.
And we know Roberts has had somewhat a fall from grace over the last 5 years. Is from New South Wales centre to Western Suburbs starter.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. But come up against Talakai.
Well, he has been quiet, and I think many people would argue Talakai got picked for Origin just because of one or two games he played.
No. They got in there for his size and how hard running he can be. And we've seen that.
We have seen that, but it's still going to be an unfair fight for Roberts.
Oh, bloody
Because you got the tackle busting, line breaking, skilled offloading, try scoring machine that it was 2 years of Garbo, who is now probably one of the good success stories of 2022.
Yeah.
And he's stayed in the centres ever since early stages of the year.
He has, yeah. And he had that very good period there where he was scoring try after try after try, week in, week out. That died off a little bit.
That second round 7 game against Manly was absolutely insanity.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, talking of the Sharks, they did get up against the St. George Illawarra Dragons, 24 points to 18, whilst the Tigers somehow lost to the Newcastle Knights, 14 to 10. We'll start with the Dragons being absolute bugs again.
But guess who the referee was?
Your favourite.
And we lost. As the record continues. No, but seriously, it could have been a lot worse for the Dragons. And to be honest, we almost won the bloody bastard.
How did Tarek Sims not get sent off? That's going to be my question to you.
I honestly don't know. I think Ashcon was, I always lose, always referee a Dragons, always make him lose. Just send him, put a sin bin instead of a send off. Just to help him.
He was cold before he even hit the ground.
Yeah. I think everyone was surprised that he didn't get sent off.
I mean...
And that's his Dragons career over.
Okay, so... I've often, in private, off air, I've often harped on to you that what is a send-off? Or, in the past, it's been raised, what constitutes a send-off? Because we think back, Sia Soliola and Billy Slater. That should have been a send-off.
Yeah.
Curtis Scott basically ending Dylan Walker purple. That was a send-off in the Mayhem in Melbourne match.
Well, that definitely got a send-off that day, yes.
Mitch Barnett on Chris Smith, just this year alone, send-off. Carl Lawton, Nathan Cleary spear tackles. Both of those were send-off. How is this not a send-off where a bloke is literally knocked out unconscious and it's just like, 10 minutes?
Yes. It's a very fine line between a definition of the sin bin and the send-off. And obviously, if you're a Sharks supporter, you would want to send off, but if you're a Dragons supporter, you would have been happy with a sin bin, which is exactly what happened.
But the fact that the Dragons actually scored when he was off.
We're pretty good at that.
The Bellens try was just sort of, where did that one come from?
Well, that's 2 weeks in a row, too. He scored the first try for us. But yeah, it was out of nowhere.
Do you like him in the front row, or do you still think he might be better suited at lock?
Based on the last 2 games, the front row is going all right for him, but I think he's still a better lock overall.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. Nico Hines, I feel like there's just reasons why I just can't not tip him, but 1 try, 146 run meters, 5 tackle breaks, an offload, and 4 from 4 goals converted to his credit. But Braden Trindle, I feel like he hasn't had a fair run at this, because I felt like even if Tracy wasn't getting picked, I felt like he should have at least been around the side as a bench utility.
I have to agree with you there. But Braden Trindle, he's another underrated player.
Yeah, I definitely think
when he's out there, he can go really, he can be one of the key players in the match. And it showed against the Dragons that how big of an influence he is.
Oh, definitely. I felt like he had a better future with the Sharks. I thought long term, before Hines, he was sort of post Townsend, post Johnson. And then, of course, they signed Nico Hines, and it's just like, oh, wow, he's actually a halfback as well as a reasonable fullback. Mm. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that about Hines, because he did have to learn fast on the job with no Pappenhausen.
He certainly did, but he did an exceptional job there. So.
Well, very adept halves and fullback, but definitely halfback more nowadays.
Yeah.
Now, what was this about Dragons fans breaching in the field of play, packing the scrum with 2 minutes left on the clock?
Honestly, don't know.
And the penalty goal as well, when you're 24-16 down.
Well, I can kind of get the reason why he did that. Because if we scored a try again and we got the conversion, it would have leveled it up. Because there's an 8-point gap at the time. but he missed the conversion, I believe so. Anyway, he missed one of the kicks that didn't quite help, but we just made one too many errors, and especially pretty much right in the last minute of the match. We had the ball down the Sharks' try line, down there at the Sharks' end of the field, and we just dropped the ball. When we could have scored, and I think if we scored and converted, we either locked it up or won the game.
Yeah,
so
you dropped the ball all in the same vein, and Tarek dropped your finals hopes.
yeah, I've got written here. It's pretty much our season's done.
Now,
Although I did read somewhere that the best possibility for the Dragons is fifth, still fifth, or the lowest is I think 12th.
you would need everyone above you to lose, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, no, we've got the Roosters in front of us, we've got Manly in front of us,
And Canberra's in front of you.
and now Canberra. So yeah,
Now, getting back to this game, of course, the Tigers just... It's absolute joke.
well, get this: they can be competitive with top 4 sides or top 5 sides, and then a team that's above them on the ladder, they can't win against them. Why? If you can be
You
competitive,
just wonder
if you can be
Tigers.
competitive and actually beat a top 5 side, but then you go and lose, you think you could be competitive on both ends, but no.
The best news they got this week was Ricky Stewart, because then they could quietly say that they were not going to pursue legal action to get the stolen win back.
Yeah, they pulled a pin on that.
Were they realistically going to even have any luck with that anyway? Because
I reckon they would have.
St. George Illawarra tried that, and that didn't go down so well for them.
Yeah, because it's the Dragons. That's why no one likes the Dragons, barring me. But yeah, I reckon they would have had a bit of luck there. They would have absolutely pushed their hardest.
Well, it's going to force yet another rule change regarding the captain's challenge.
More than likely.
I mean, you'll have those commentaries saying, get rid of it, stop changing the rules, or just revert it so there's no more captain's challenge.
I like the idea of captain's challenges. But whether or not they can do it on forward passes.
No. And that was another thing I should have actually mentioned when we were talking to Cowboys. That denied try to Murray Taulagi, that was a try. I'm saying that as a Dogs fan, the forward movement of the ball, come on, give me a break. That was a try. Everyone knows it. Now we've set the precedent. The bunker can rule on forward passes to an extent.
And for the whole season up to now, they've ruled the bunker can't rule on full passes.
Well, the bunker just did.
but
They
all
called
of
it
a sudden they
forward.
can.
They called it forward movement of the ball. That's essentially what they've done. So now we're saying, if the ball goes marginally forward off a player, even though he hasn't touched it with his hands, we can now call that a forward pass and deny a try. That's a precedent. We don't need technology on the ball.
It sets the tone for the finals.
Because the
doesn't
bunker can now say whether or not a pass has gone forward if it gets to that. Because they have set now a precedent with this decision. That is an absolute...
Make the finals series more interesting.
It could make the finals a farce. And the grand finals at risk as well.
Not in more ways than one.
But
that's another story.
For another day. Otherwise, I think this is going to be a class difference right here. The Sharks win this big. 13 plus.
Yeah, Sharks to win this one by, like I said, a bloody heavy margin. I'm going to say by 28. Yeah, Sharks
makes
win by
the top
28.
Top 6 a bit uncomfortable here and there. And speaking of that top 6, here is one of them, the Brisbane Broncos up against the Newcastle Knights.
For the away side and the winning side from last week, Adam Clune is back in place of Jake Clifford, who is out with a fractured arm. Dave Clemmer is back from missing last week due to
Disciplinary.
Yeah, I can't speak out today. Reasons. Mitch Barnett is out with a thumb. He's been replaced by Matt Croker, with Jacob Taufidi leaving the field. He has been named Edgerly. He's also amongst the reserves, with still no sign of Kurt Mann.
As for the Broncos, have made a couple of changes. Tamare Martin back in the side after spending some time back in the Host Plus Cup getting match fitness. So Tessie New drops out. Branko Lee has also been recalled in the centres, is with Dane Mariner dropping back, and Billy Walters will start at dummy half with Jake Turpin going back to the bench. It's a rough deal for Jake Turpin because now apparently he's been told he doesn't have a future with the Broncos anymore.
I have heard that.
Or I think the other word was surplus to requirement.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I that's just what
I've only heard about him not being wanted next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's on the market.
And there's a I can't English. A few clubs circling him.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, the Knights.
I think I heard this correctly. This could be, I think, their 14th halves combination this year alone.
Well, if we pull up the Rugby League project, it could probably paint us a very bleak story.
Yeah, I know
of how
you went. I think it was last season when we were kicking off. You went through all the different halves combinations.
Only with the Dogs, the Dragons, and the Broncos because they were the absolute dog shit sides.
Yeah, but I think this is the Knights' 14th halves combination. It's going to be Clune and Milford this time around. You've had Clune and Clifford. You've had.
Oh, right. Most players.
You've had Milford and Clifford. Clune and Milford.
Let's just
Clifford and Clune.
First appearance.
I think Crossland's been in there somewhere.
Go, so we've gone. Clifford, Clune, 5'8" halfback combination. Then we dropped it to Clifford, Crossland. Clune came back again. Let's see it. Then Anthony Milford came to the club, so then he got at the run at 5'8" since round 12. Of course, Clifford got axed. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Clifford. Yeah, I'm just looking through this all available on the Rugby League project, of course, but they've gone through a couple of halves changes here and there.
Yeah.
To say the least.
I could have been wrong. I might have not been 14, but I did know it was a bloody high number.
Oh, that was 14 over 4 years or so, or a couple of years, 3 years from what I sampled.
14.
Well, that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I know I did hear 14 somewhere. I didn't think it was this year, but yeah, no, 14 over a few years. So there you go. But still, it's a ridiculous amount.
The combination, and Jake Clifford played a huge part in this. Is the two standout players I found from this game. Anari Tuala first up, 2 tries, 152 running meters, 2 tackle breaks and 1 offload. And then, with all the speculation surrounding him, I've gone also with Dane Gagai. 203 running meters, 14 tackle breaks, and a singular offload.
14 tackle breaks is a bloody good effort. That's like a forward bloody effort there.
But the early lead the Knights built up, and they almost squander it. Obviously.
Almost. They'll let the Tigers come back at them.
Yeah, I can't believe Newcastle got up. And the second reason I didn't want Newcastle to get up was because it now means they're equal points with the Bulldogs.
Well, put it this way. You should think that the Knights will lose to the Broncos and the Dogs will possibly win.
I think Martin coming back is going to be a huge boost for Brisbane, whilst the Knights have not been... Well, they've been atrocious. With the side they have on paper, they should be a lot higher up. Alas, they aren't. I think the Broncos at home, especially the Saturday night crowd, they should perform well. 7-12 win for the Broncos. I think Adam Reynolds will...
That's a short margin.
Will set the pace, rein in their discipline, because that's what got them undone against the Roosters. I think there'll be a lot more discipline against the Knights here, and the results will show for itself.
I'm going to say Brisbane wins one by 30 points.
Calling it big.
Well, it's against the Knights for crying out loud. And Brisbane, it's a class difference.
Yeah, you're right. It is a class difference again.
That's why I'm surprised you went 7-12, but
Now, we are in the nation's capital for the Canberra Raiders up against the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Of course, there is no Frank Olo. He has dropped out of the side, with Tarek Sims, of course, ending his career with St. George Illawarra. So Josh Maguire will move into the second row. Michael Molo will start at lock forward, with Billy Burns going to the bench alongside Tyrell Fui Mayono. And I believe that's the only changes in the forwards, so to speak. But Cody Ramsey has been included in the side.
As for the Grey Machine, Joe Tarpany is out with a rib injury, so Emre Gula is taking his place with Corey Horsburgh joining the bench. Xavier Savage is back at fullback, which means Alpha Hopewade shifts to the win in place of Nick Cottridge, who's suspended.
Yeah.
Well, Dragons were the closest to beating the Sharks, but then the Raiders are absolutely nowhere against Penrith.
Canberra.
But Canberra are a pretty solid side. But without Ricky Stewart being there...
That's the big thing. So who's the Raiders' assistant coach, first of all?
They've got a couple, I believe.
But who would be the most likely to take charge for this game?
Good question. Someone.
Well, let's just talk about what's happened here. So he calls Jamin Salmon a weak-gutted dog.
Correct.
And that he said he's known him since he was like 11. Apparently some sort of family rift. So the NRL has taken, and again, talking about precedents, they have now set it up as if you call someone a weak-gutted dog or similar, you will miss 1 week, 4 p.m. Tuesday to 4 p.m. next Tuesday, and you will cop a $25,000 fine.
And you're not allowed to have any contact with the club whatsoever, players or anyone.
What do you make of that precedent that's now been set? Because what...
Well, be realistic. How many times has Ricky Stewart been fined in his coaching career?
Well, he's not the only one, but he's definitely the most prolific. I believe he was quoted $120,000 or so already.
Yeah, well...
In post-match interviews?
Not even just this year. Even, like, last year and that. So... It was going to be sooner rather than later he was going to get suspended. And this just tipped the NRL over about him calling that. So that's why he got the suspension. That's how I see it.
So, I mean, apart from the mean words he used, the attack of, like, saying of him being 11 when he was that just... Did it get too personal?
I believe so. What I've heard is that I think Ricky Stewart came out and said he took it from a father point of view instead of a club point of view, because his son played alongside Jamin Salmon when they were like 12 or whatever. So he took it more from a father point of view more than a head coach point of view, and that's why he come out and said it.
So you let the emotion boil over that he was not Ricky Stewart, Canberra Raiders head coach. He was Ricky Stewart, husband and a father.
Pretty much. That's how I understand it. So,
but weak gutted dog, is it really the worst insult in the world?
It could have been worse. But if he wanted to say it, he shouldn't have said it in front of the media. Because you know what the media is like nowadays. Once it gets said, they make it like front
instant replay,
page.
Newspapers. And it doesn't really matter if you listen to Paul Kent. Because it'll be the Channel 9 newspapers saying the exact same thing as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just News Corp and Fox Sports that is guilty of doing this. It's 9 personalities that do it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just...
So
perhaps there was a line I know was crossed, and I think...
Yeah.
I think this is going to backfire on the Raiders hard. I just feel...
Well, I found the head coaching duties that he will hand over to Brett Wright, Andrew McFadden, and Mick Crawley.
Right. And I imagine one of those, the Raiders knock-on effect head coach?
Well, they're the assistants, Raiders assistants, so possibly, I don't know. That's all I've got here is the...
It's sort of like with the Sharks when Craig Fitzgibbon was ruled out due to COVID. It was like, was it going to be Steve Price or Josh Hannay?
The same with when Ivan Cleary was ruled out and Serrato was ruled out.
And they had Andrew Webster that was the last man standing.
Yeah. But yeah. It'll be one of those ones. Yeah, but this could maybe hurt Canberra, but Canberra are pretty solid. Generally speaking.
Depends on the type of Raiders you get rock up. I mean, we talked about their defensive resilience, the 19-20 model. Then we got the 17-18 model of the Raiders that had folds in half in the second half after getting out to what seems like an unchaseable lead.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, they were poor against Penrith last week down there, so
Yeah.
comes down to the opposition as well too. If it's a easier opposition or a harder opposition, if you could say.
I think it's just point blank two equally weak sides that at various points looked like they were going to finish in the top 8, but have fallen away at the wayside. I think that sums up both of them right here.
Hit the nail on the head right there. Definitely have.
I think the Dragons will take a lot of confidence out of sticking it out with the Sharks for as long as they did, but still smiting that they didn't get up over them in the Bermuda Triangle, as it's so called.
Yeah.
I think the Dragons come away 1-6 winners here. I think and there'll be a lot of distractions for the Raiders heading into this game that I think it could weigh heavily on them.
Yeah, fair enough. I did tip the Dragons as well. I'm going to say they're going to win by 8 points. It's going to be a fairly close contest.
Yeah, just trying to avoid who can outperform them in mediocre terms, so to speak. And finally, we have the Gold Coast Titans, speaking of mediocre, up against the Manly Sea Eagles.
For the away side, Sipley has been named to start with Taniela Paseka sideline with a knee injury. Josh Aloiai is back from his own knee injury on the bench, but Sean Kepi is still out. Kieran Foran is set to play despite suffering a hamstring against one of his former clubs, the Eels.
As for the Titans, unfortunately, Aaron Booth did his ACL, MCL, and his PCL all in one go like Hayes Dunster, so he will be ruled out for the next 9 to 12 months. In the meantime, Aaron Clark will shift from lock into the dummy half position. Isaac Liu will go to lock. Patrick Herbert will take his place back on the wing with Greg Marju going back to the interchange, and those are the only changes the Titans have made. Tanner Boyd still the first choice at halfback for
That's
Justin
interesting
Holbrook.
that they rested Toby Sexton last week and again this week. I wonder if there's something more to the story.
Well, I think the sort of the question is, you look at the Titans' spine, I think we got to remember, Jamal Fogarty was let go at the start of the year because the Titans wanted Sexton as a long-term halfback.
Yeah, look what.
And at this point, it backfired.
Oh yes, it has.
And that's not Sexton's fault per se, but it's got to lie with the Gold Coast head office and Justin Holbrook, who probably had a hand in the release.
He's
Justin
still
Holbrook
somehow still got a job.
for now.
For now. That's what
Because
we somehow.
Holbrook's on probably a
cutting
razor thin edge at the moment with the way the Titans are playing. Because the Titans shouldn't be running last at the moment.
They should be fighting for the top 8.
On paper, you look, it's a representative forward pack they got. Fotuaker, Tongan International. Tino, Fafita, David, that is, both Queenslanders. Isaac Liu, former key Iwi forward. And then they got some young sparks, Campbell, AJ Brimson in there as well. They should not be running last.
Well, Brimson didn't play for Queensland once or twice.
2020 series.
Well, there you go. And then Jaden Campbell, who has the potential to play for Queensland if he wants to, I believe.
Bit of a list on fullbacks at the moment.
Oh, yeah, but down a track, if I might.
I'm looking at this Titan side and it's meh.
Yeah.
It's just, they have underperformed so hard. It even makes the teams in Super League that finished 12th look so much better.
That is actually true.
They just do.
Yeah.
They make the 2019 London Broncos and even make the Leeds Centurions in 2017 and 21 look good as well. With less wins, mind you. Some of those have had less wins.
Yep, it makes Toulouse better currently.
It is just absolutely mental. And you look at Manly, they'll be hurting after they blew the lead against the Eels.
Yes.
Eels that they worked so hard for.
But this one's going to be one-way traffic, surely.
It's shaping up as one-way traffic. Not blowout, but I feel like Manly will want to tighten up their right side defensively. And they know all they have to do is just keep the ball away from David Fafita, or just, how the Titans play every other day.
Shit.
No, not get Fafita involved.
That too.
That's all they have to do. They just have to ensure that the Titans don't get Fafita involved.
But if they don't get Fafita involved, they go shit. So yeah.
Look, I'm expecting a massive turnaround from Manly here. I think 7-12 is very respectable for them.
I'm going to say a blowout score. I'm going to say 26 points in favour of Manly.
Just the Titans have just been disappointing, and it'll literally come down between them and the Tigers to see who can suck harder.
I reckon it will be Gold Coast over Tigers. There you go.
Somehow, though. Somehow.
Because Tigers have shown glimpses of what they are capable of. They did knock off the Eagles. They did knock off the Rabbits. They did knock off the Broncos. They nearly knocked off... should have knocked off the Cowboys. There's four top eight sides that they have beaten / should have won against.
Exactly. And on that note, it is full time from us here, but don't go anywhere because it's the Betfred Super League Week 23 debrief coming up very soon. But if you like this part and the next part that will come, make sure you leave this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and click the bell for notifications so you never miss a week of rugby league action. Don't forget to give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. On Facebook and on Instagram is at Sideline Chat, and on Twitter it is at Sideline Chat RL, and you can also use our hashtags to promote our content at Sideline Chat RL or Side Chat YT. And we will see you very soon with your daily dose of the Betfred Super League.